Thank you, thank you. So it is right at the top of the hour all over the nation, and I want to welcome you to the CPS Coordinators Forum. This is December 7th, 2022, and we are ready to get this started. As a reminder, we ask that you don't participate in this forum if you're driving a motor vehicle. Please go ahead and drive safely, and you can check out the recording. It'll be posted to cpsboard.org/CPS Coordinators Forum. And we generally get it up pretty quick, 24 to 48 hours. So it will be there for you to reference. We will be taking questions after each session. We have two different parts of today's program. Please go ahead and write them in the chat if you'd like. We'll be monitoring that, and we'll try to make sure that we get to all of your questions. And if it's something we can't answer, we're certainly going to find the answer and get back to you. We are going to kick off today with an update to the National School Bus Curriculum. And we are really excited to share this with you. I'm going to stop my video to hide my own face. But I'm here today, and my name is Mandi Seethaler. I'm the statewide CPS coordinator for Alaska. I'm also the community engagement chair for the National Child Passenger Safety Board. We are really excited to have you today. Again, if you'll put in the chat where you're from, we would love to know who's joining us today. And please remember to put your questions in the chat bar. So to kick off today's CPS Coordinators Forum, I'm here to share about the Child Passenger Safety on School Buses National Training. This is an update to the 2015 CPS Restraint Systems on School Buses National Training Curriculum. The updated curriculum is currently being piloted and is expected to be released in late 2022. We are almost there. A big thank you goes out to Denise Donaldson, Sue Shrum, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, and Charlie Vitz. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to have a couple of you mute your videos or your sound. But again, big thanks. And Denise, I see you on the call today, and wow, we really want to thank you for all that you have done to make this so
such a loser.
Perfect. Next slide. So as we work on the Child Passenger Safety National Trainings, we have a focus on making it easier to access by removing barriers in order to create more learning opportunities. You can see this commitment applied to the development of all of our curriculum, including the introductory, certification, and enrichment trainings. And how are we doing this? By developing both in-person and hybrid delivery options for curricula, as well as online learning libraries. The goal is to make access easier so people have the ability to take advantage of the full range of the curricula. Availability, physical access, access to the information, and effectiveness. We're doing this by removing barriers and by decreasing conditions, policies, or attitudes that prevent or make it difficult to access the curricula. In societal, the education, employment, and lack of understanding for the need, institutional, location, physical access, and administrative. We're doing all we can to make this available. To create more opportunities for people to use the curriculum should be available, affordable, and effective. Next slide. New to the 2022 curriculum, we will be launching two versions of the Child Passenger Safety on School Buses National Training, one for Child Passenger Safety Technicians and one for Pupil Transport. The CPST version will launch in late 2022, followed by the Pupil Transportation version in early 2023. Next slide. The content is evidence-based and represents best practice. All material has been vetted by subject matter experts. Thank you. From the child passenger safety and pupil transportation fields. Topics in both versions include types of school buses, federal motor vehicle safety standards, crash dynamics, occupant protection for children, CSRS basics, conventional and integrated CSRS use with CAN reps, and CSRS and students with disabilities, and emergency evacuation. The child passenger safety technician version will be streamlined, eliminating introductory material covered in the National Child Passenger Safety Technician Certification Training curriculum. There will be 3 delivery methods for each version: in-person, hybrid, including online learning, and in-person components, and modular. The estimated completion time for the child passenger safety version is 5 hours. The estimated completion time for the in-person pupil transportation is 8 hours. Next slide. The online modules will be delivered via the Car Seat Education Learning Management System, available at carseateducation.org. You're going to want to bookmark that one. Students will be able to access the online modules in the Child Passenger Safety on School Buses Learning Library, providing them the opportunity to complete individual modules of interest. Proof of completion will be issued for completion of each of the modules, and access to the Child Passenger Safety on School Bus Learning Library will be free of charge to the public. A hybrid offering, including online learning and in-person components, will be offered. Similar to the hybrid offering of the National CPST certification training, students will complete the online learning segments and then participate in a shortened in-person session, approximately 2 hours, of hands-on activities, including the installation of conventional car seats and CSRS with CAN reps. Next slide. Participant handouts, typically 2 to 3 pages in length, are available for each module, focusing on key points and resources. And I have to be honest, I'm a huge fan of the handouts. I like to print it so I can write on it and keep it for my reference. So this is a big hit for me. Next slide. Interactive slides have been incorporated throughout the training to explain concepts, as the examples are shown here. Participants are given a moment to review the terms and select the definition that works best. Click. On a side note, we have updated the reference to children with disabilities. In the past, we often used children with special needs. The term special needs is less used today, with government and social agencies updating their terminology to include children with disabilities and accommodation for needs in place of special needs. Next slide. We have used consistent labeling and terminology throughout the curriculum to facilitate comprehension of the material. Shown here is the introductory slide for Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSS. And I got to be honest with you, I love having all this on one slide. It's one of my favorites, so you can see clearly what everything means. And it's kind of hard to say FMVSS first thing in the morning. It's still early here. Next slide. So FMVSS 210, seatbelts and anchorages. Here's an example of a slide focused on FMVSS 210, as noted on the labeling in the top right-hand corner. Additionally, this is an interactive slide, asking the participants to choose which seats they believe are reinforced. Click. Note, all of these examples are reinforced school bus seats. Image A has an additional crossbar in the middle of the seat. The crossbar by the seat bite is substantial and the sides are reinforced. Image B has a crossbar by the seat bite that is substantial and the sides are reinforced. Another hint is that the seat includes an integrated or built-in CSRS. Image C has reinforced sides and a crossbar and already has lap belts installed. Note that with these types of reinforced seats, the lap belts attach on the back of the frame, compared to the pre-drilled holes on the top of the frame on the previous slide. What is a cam wrap? This was a great question, and I love this illustration. We have worked to provide updated images that clearly demonstrate concepts being presented, which is really, really helpful when you're learning something new. So I really appreciate this. Next slide. The images are specific to school bus transportation. Look how clear that is. It's fantastic. Next slide. You will see the addition of videos throughout the curriculum demonstrating school bus specific information, harness adjustment, and CSRS installation. This helps to streamline the presentation time, providing more time for hands-on practice, and helps to ensure that the students will be able to see the demonstration in the classroom. Will you play the video, please?
Installation of some types of child safety restraint systems requires threading webbing straps through the bite, where the seat cushion and seat back meet. When installing these types, it's often helpful or even necessary to lift the bus seat's cushion in order to widen the opening to the bite. Therefore, it's handy that most bus seats allow the cushion to hinge up or come off the frame. However, it's crucial that the cushion be relocked after this process. Since late 2009, regulations require bus seating that opens this way to automatically lock when the cushion is put back down. Thanks to that requirement, the spring-loaded locking mechanism shown here has become common. Pull the spring back to unlock and then raise the cushion. When the cushion is fully lowered, it should relock. Although this should happen automatically, it's a good idea to push down on the cushion and check that it's locked. A wider range of cushion locking hardware, such as these, can be found on buses made in 2009 and before. Each of these common hardware examples require the user to both unlock and carefully relock the cushion.
Thank you, Denise, for that great video. We are so lucky to have them. We have built out a new web page supporting the updated curriculum. The resources are going to be arranged by topic, and the student handouts are also posted. Please note that this web page is not available to the public yet, but it will be made public when the curriculum is released. So this is all ready to go. Next slide. Using the online home base for resources instead of relying on the printed manual enables the students have access to updated links and resources at any time. This is an example of the resources shared in the school bus safety resources. Need help finding a school bus training? We have added an enrichment training calendar available at cpsboard.org/training calendar to help CPSTs find the CPS on school buses national training offerings. Moving forward, in-person and hybrid offerings will be included in the listing. The cost for each training is dependent on the location and will vary. Next slide. Recently added to the National Child Passenger Safety Board's YouTube channel is Child Passenger Safety on School Buses playlist. It has 23 videos from the soon to be released curriculum. These videos are a great reference for hands-on application in the field. Yay! I'm excited. Additional resources. We appreciate all that you do in the field and we want to support you. Newly added to the cpsboard.org/training, you'll find a summary of all the currently available and soon to be released child passenger safety national trainings. We will continue to update this handout as curricula are developed. Thank you for helping to promote the child passenger safety national trainings. We appreciate you. Through the Car Seat Education Learning Management System, we are able to offer free group delivery of introductory courses, including the car seat basics and children in hot cars. Designated group admins are available to assist users in training, monitoring their progress, and running completion reports. Visit cpsboard.org/training for more information. You can always reach us via the toll-free National Child Passenger Safety Board program support line. The program line is answered weekdays during Central Time business hours, or you can email at training@cpsboard.org. This email is monitored daily. Any questions?
You have something in the chat, Mandy, from another Mandy from Mandi Summers. It says, I love the updates to the school bus curriculum. Is there a requirement to take the updated class before we can teach it as it was in the past?
You know, Mandy, I probably should have indicated that I don't have all the answers for this. It's going to be a question for Tammy, but I'm going to note this down and we'll get in touch with you by the end of the day tomorrow to let you know, unless someone on the call knows.
Mandy, this is Jim.
Yes. Hey, Jim.
I believe if you completed the requirement to teach the previous version, that you are okay to go.
Perfect. And Denise concurred. So great. I'm glad you're both here to help with that. And Tammy's email is the training@cpsboard.org, and she can help with some of these questions. Okay. Well, please continue to send your questions. Denise did make a note that you must have taken the 2015 or newer, and you must be a current child passenger safety technician. But I'm really looking forward to these coming out, and I can't wait to share them with you. So we are going to talk about the National Child Passenger Safety Technician Hybrid Certification Training. This is a collection of insights, tips, and lessons learned. And it's very short release time. So just as great leaders connect the dots, great state coordinators connect people with goods and services. And it's the job of a state child passenger safety coordinator to wear many hats. And part of that role is to support and mentor our new CPSTs, proxies, and instructors. While each of us play a different role in our state, and we may or may not be instructors, we also support certification. The hybrid curriculum was created to expand the reach and accessibility of the National Standardized Certification Training. The hybrid course offering is designed to fit the learning styles and schedules of anyone who would benefit from flexible instruction settings. Next slide. So what is the hybrid? The hybrid offering is the same as the in-person course offering. Both delivery methods for the National CPST certification training cover the same content. Supplemental multimedia tools are used in the hybrid offering to enhance the student experience and create a learning environment that is similar to the in-person offering. Lead instructors will communicate directions for accessing the e-learning materials on the learning management system that we just talked about in the school bus training. And the system will be made available to the students about a week prior to the course, before the kickoff session. This is housed at carseateducation.org. And as we just mentioned, Car Seat Basics is there, and new. You can also access CEUs there. So if you are writing a December newsletter for CPSTs in your state, this would be something great to include and make sure everybody knows. So again, that's at carseateducation.org. That's where you can access CEUs. Next. The hybrid course has 3 components: self-paced learning, scheduled virtual sessions, and in-person sessions. So we're gonna talk just a smidge about those before we continue. You'll go to the next slide. So this is how the hybrid course structure is set up. There's 4 learning blocks, and they must be completed in the sequence. Students must complete all e-learning segments in order, and it's recommended that the content in each learning block be completed prior to the mandatory checkpoint for that learning block. And all the content must be completed 100% prior to attending learning block 4. The virtual checkpoints are mandatory, and the students are directed to return to the LMS, the Learning Management System. Sorry, I got distracted by Tracy's question. I'll get back to that, Tracy, here in just a second. Quizzes are done online. Any questions not completed at the end of the 45-minute time cap are going to be marked incomplete. The scoring, though, is not capable of accumulating scoring across the quizzes, so that's something lead instructors will need to manage. But you can see how the blocks are broken up: modules 1 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 13. And then learning block 4 is actually the in-person sessions, and this will be a 2-day session. Yeah, Tracy, I'm going to get to that actually in the next slide or 2 about the idea of the instructor timeframe. It's a really great question. So if you visit cpsboard.org, there's a comparison form. And right now, if you wanted to take your phone and scan that QR code, you would have access to this. This is just a snapshot at the top of the page. This is actually a legal-sized document that gives a brief overview of the comparison between the in-person and the hybrid offering. It might help you make a decision whether or not this is something that you are ready to offer, or if it's something that could be helpful to your students. In addition to this, we do offer a Ready, Set, Go hybrid webinar series for instructors. If you wanted to have a team instructor meeting, this is something that we could do on request. There is also one recorded that you can access at cpsboard.org. So find one that meets your schedule, or reach out to us and we can schedule one for you and your instructors. As a quick plug at Lifesavers, we are going to be having a pre-session, How to Hybrid. If you or a member of your statewide teaching team is interested in delivering the hybrid and don't know where to start, this session is for you. Join members of the National CPS Board to learn more, including how to earn your instructor hybrid endorsement, where to find resources, scheduling tips, how to deliver. You're going to leave feeling energized and ready to do it. Next slide. So Tracy, here's where we can get to your question. So the board decided that instructors teaching the hybrid should know what the students experienced. The endorsement is currently required, and it's not a lengthy process. I personally found this to be a fantastic review of the current curriculum. I learned so much. In fact, I learned something every time I teach it. I think we all do. And I've also used it as a review when I'm preparing to teach the in-person. It can be a challenge to find enough instructors in your state to offer the hybrid, because all instructors on the hybrid teaching team have to have the endorsement. So part of that experience is to go through the hybrid curriculum. You won't be doing the in-person days or submitting the videos. There's a note on here that it takes about 10 hours or so self-paced, and that depends on if you kind of whip through it or if you take your time, if you go back and review. Once you have finished taking all of the e-learning modules, you will take the Train the Trainer. It's about 45 minutes with a quiz. I want to make sure that you know too that we do have a curriculum feedback form. If you have questions, please make sure that you use that to submit those questions so we can address those. Until the end of December, you can earn community education hours for completing the endorsement training. You can earn 3 community education hours that can be applied in the alternative teaching hours category for recertification. Elizabeth, I believe the answer is no. Can you go back a slide, Jessica? Can an instructor candidate observe the hybrid as a requirement for observing the class as a course assistant? No, Elizabeth, at this time, the hybrid cannot be used for instructor candidacy. We do acknowledge that we're changing the curriculum delivery that's been in place for 20 years, and it does come with challenges. It can be hard at first. We're all learning together, but I think ultimately we're all going to find some benefit for everyone. And again, this may not be for everyone. Okay, next slide. So the main point that I wanted to talk about today is what have we learned so far? The hybrid was released in August, and this following list of lead instructors have given it a go. They have all had a course, or they're in the process of finishing up a course, and they were willing to share with me what they have learned. So I want to express my gratitude to these instructors and their entire teaching team and their support staff. And I also want to thank them for their time in providing information and sharing what they've learned. Again, we all know that time is tight right now, and it's really hard to commit. So I just really want to say thank you. In the next few slides, I have summarized the content, and I'm doing my best to share as they intended, but it was quite a bit of information, and trying to fit it onto some slides is a bit of a challenge. So who attended these courses? Let's start with the students. While it was a very small sample size of courses, I felt like the students that the instructors reported attended were who we would typically see in a course. Interns, community partners, firefighters, law enforcement. This seemed to be just really who I typically see, and I'm guessing who you typically see as well. We asked about the instructor teams, who taught this. The majority of the instructor teams for these first few courses were experienced instructors, but there were a few newer instructors that were part of it. And back to your question about the instructor candidacy, requirements for the instructor candidacy cannot be completed during a hybrid course at this time. I do want to share one tidbit that was communicated with us. One of the instructors shared, we started with a cohort of 10 students. 5 hospital employees dropped the course within the first week, citing the amount of work it was going to require. Once they started the modules, they realized how much work it would be and decided not to go forward. So we're going to talk about those challenges as we go on, and kind of what we can do about it, and what these instructors recommended as they ran into challenges. Next slide. So in the beginning discussions of the hybrid course, the hottest topic, I guess, was the challenge of getting the students the materials and supplies they'd need to be successful. And if you've ever unloaded or loaded a trailer of classroom supplies, you know what I mean. Most of us plan a full day before or after the course to prepare and maneuver the supplies. The variety of car seats take up most of the room in my classroom. But interestingly enough, our instructors didn't report that this was a huge issue for them. They loaned out their training materials, or the students had seats available, usually their own, to use. This does limit the exposure to a variety of seats, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on the slide. And as a CPS coordinator myself, I've been planning a lending library. So I use the information I collected here, and I've been making myself a checklist about what I'm going to include in my lending library to deliver. I highlighted locking clips on this slide because, interestingly enough, several of the instructors mentioned how hard it was to get those out. So that is something that I thought was interesting that multiple people asked about. And Megan, I see your question. Is there a planned date of publication for policies and procedures for the curriculum? Yes, there is. It's just in the works, and we don't have a date for it quite yet. But yes, it is in the works. And as we go through some further slides, you're going to see that those are some of the things that we did find a definite need for, is a little more support for the instructors. I do want to share an innovative way that one of the instructors got car seats to the students. So this lead instructor actually purchased seats for each students in their class, a Safety First, Comfort 35, a Costco convertible, a Costco Finale combination seat, and a booster seat. So through Walmart, there was shipping to every location. So he provided this to all of his students, or he delivered them himself. Those seats were used as distribution seats in Skills 4, which I thought was great. If they had any remaining, you never know quite what the participation is going to be. They sent those back with the new technicians to distribute in their communities. So I thought that was pretty innovative. I was excited to see that. So next slide. So how did our instructors feel the two compared? The hybrid and the in-person. Overall, the teaching experience was similar, but most felt that it took a little bit more instructor time. The biggest topic or the biggest report we had was instructor availability. Some of these students are completing this in their personal time, some are doing it during work time, some are doing it after kind of a normal business day, 8 to 5. And most of the instructors reported that students expected them to be available kind of 24/7 with immediate feedback when they submitted an assignment. So most of the instructors reported kind of feeling they were on call, but it's in little bits and pieces. So it was an hour here, it was an hour there. But there was quite a bit of check-in time and being available. But they did spread that time out over several weeks, between 3 and about 7 for these courses. They just felt like it was a lot of time. The evaluations, the check-ins, they had to be flexible. They had to be available when the students were working on it. If they came up to a hard stop, they couldn't continue until the instructor took a look at the assignment. The other thing that they noted was that watching and evaluating the videos takes time. So the students will submit a video of the assignment and the instructor needs to watch it. It's a great check-in for your students. You can see how they're doing and are they understanding the materials and where it's going. But it is time consuming, and responding to each student and making sure that you've communicated how things are going is, again, just time consuming. Slack takes a little bit of learning. I don't know if any of you had used it yet, but practicing how to upload or how to get your videos on was a little bit of a learning experience. So some practice with that. And I think as our instructors develop their skills in using Slack, we'll be able to explain it better and get those students to submit their videos. Some did report missing the in-person, just like we're doing now. I wish I could see your faces. I wish I could see if you were nodding or if you're like, oh no, this isn't going to work for me. I want to see how you're reacting. And I think that we missed that with our students. So that was reported actually by more than one instructor, that they did miss the in-class experience and being able to connect with the students. One of the instructors also noted that they had a shortened time frame. They took about 3.5 weeks, but after going through it once, they would actually take a longer time. They would take 6 to 8 weeks to give the students a little more time to complete the assignments. But overall, really great. So on to the next slide. So there are so many elements about the hybrid that I'm curious about and I'm excited about, but I think this was the biggest one for me personally. I wanted to know if the students could go through this hybrid and then come to the in-person days prepared. Are they going to know what they need to know? So yes and no. We had several yeses from the majority of the instructors. The students were well prepared for the hands-on activities. Surprisingly, yes. They believe it's preparing them. The majority of them were comfortable and ready to jump in. It was impressive that they were comfortable and knowledgeable at the same time. Yes, but it was kind of hard to know until they got there. You're like, are they going to come in prepared or not? So a little bit of the unknown if the students were going to be ready. Another instructor said, yes, I was totally impressed by their preparedness. All eight of our students were confident, prepared, and successful. And I'd like to share a quote from one of the instructors. Recording the videos forced them to do the work themselves, so they couldn't just echo what their partner or someone nearby had said when it was all in person. Many liked that they had time to process the information between sessions, which they would not have had if they had done the training in the 3 or 4 consecutive days. So I thought that was really, really helpful to know. You wonder if those partner activities, who's doing all the talking or the learning. So this really focused on the individual. Part of the no for this hands-on preparation is that they were missing seeing a variety of car seats. The students are limited by what was available to them. They may not have seen load legs, rebound management systems, rotating seats, different types of lock-offs, etc. come back to that comment in just a quick second. This comment was super interesting. I don't think they were prepared for the amount of physical work it would take to complete skills 2. I don't know about you guys, but we get into the second day of class where we're doing some installations, and all of a sudden students are like, wow, this is hard. You're carrying seats, you're climbing in and out of the vehicles. So just another thing to kind of keep in the back of your mind, that those 2 in-person days are pretty physical. One instructor said that they needed more time for activities for students who were less familiar with materials. You know, I think you need to plan for what your students look like and what their experience may have been. And then they recommended maybe having some optional check-in times or optional practice times where students could drop by and practice with some other seats, maybe use your training seats. Jessica, I think this is you in the comments. Your instructor team had hours covered from 7 to 8 p.m. in order to assist students. That's a pretty wide window of availability. Just some thoughts on Hamlet. Yep. And we are going to talk about all of those. So next slide. So what about overcoming challenges, and what were some of the challenges? So as you're listening to this, are you working on something else? Are you checking your email? Are you planning for your next meeting? Overall, the lead instructors emphasize the need to share with students the time commitment. Students kind of expected to whip right through it before the virtual checkpoints, and this led to them being unprepared to participate in the class discussions, the virtual checkpoints. It's also necessary to share that they really can't complete this course in the background. You know, they can't just have it running and somebody's going to read them the content. The slides, as we saw in the school bus curriculum, are interactive. You're going to need to click, you're going to need to flip the cards. There's places where you need to type in information. So it isn't interactive. It's not something you can do while you're doing something else. They require attention. And then there's videos that need to be created and submitted prior to the virtual check-ins. One of the things was the dates. They said they have some students like, oh, I can't quite make the dates, but the virtual check-ins are required. They do need to be there. And when a lead instructor registers a course, they do input all of those dates into that. So when the student registers, they should know that. But again, we're going to talk about our tips and tricks. Communication is going to be the key to a successful hybrid course. WebEx and Slack were challenges. Students used their work. Give me just 1 second, sugar. Okay, go get something in the kitchen. Sorry, it's a snow day here in Alaska, and I'm being mom as well as CPS board.
Hi, Bodie. I'm just going, well, Mandy has her son for the snow day. Want to explain, you know, my experience with Slack. I had never used it before, and it's once you get on, and once, just like anything new, once you get on, it was just like texting on my phone. It was extremely easy, but it's just that I don't know how to do it. It's new. I've never heard of it. But once you get on and you see how easy it is, and you can do it on your phone if you want. You do not have to. It does not cost anything. But with that time and with that experience, it just becomes something like, if you can order on Amazon, if you can text your friend, you can use Slack. So a lot of that was, I've never heard of it before. I've never used it before, but with use comes comfort. And that's a lot of the feedback that we're getting. It's a little scary the first time, but once you get on it and all the resources are available to get you on, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have to do it. So just overcoming that resistance to change and being like, I can do this. If I can order something on Amazon, if I can watch a movie on Netflix, I can do this. And that's what I personally found. So hopefully Bodie is ready to go and you're back on the scene, Mandy, but let me know if you need me to keep talking.
Nope, I am. Thanks so much. The little guy needed a snack to make it through the meeting. One of the things that did come up too is students registered for their class with their work email, but they were completing the work at home. Maybe they were doing it after hours and they didn't have access to their work accounts. So just something to kind of, again, be aware of and maybe figure that out ahead of time. Which email should they register with? We did the same. This is the comment. I'm not sure who. Oh, Megan, there we go. We realized that a lot of our students were working professionals and could do the course in the evenings or weekends, and they alternated some on-call hours. This seems to be a recurring theme. A lot of instructor teams realized they needed to maybe make some assignments about when they were going to be available to cover all the time. There was also a need to create some more instructor supports, which are in the works, and we hope to have those. One of the other things is that we did develop some PowerPoints to help lead the virtual check-ins, but instructors need to take a little time and do their own homework and make sure that they've read those. They are new. It's not something we've seen before. So just being prepared. And once again, the instructors kind of miss the personal connection. And I feel like that's a worldwide theme right now. We're doing so much virtually. I think we all want to check in and say hello to a face. So next slide. So tips and tricks. You know, the three things about real estate are location, location, location. I think the recurring theme here is communicate, communicate, communicate. Get to know your students' faces and their names on the virtual check-ins. You know, take a little screenshot and get to know them. But the lead instructors recommended actually having a conversation with your students when they register. Talk about the time commitment. Talk about the fact that it's an active curriculum where you need to be engaged. You need to set aside time. It's something that does take a few minutes. You can't just, you know, knock it out really quick before or squeeze it in between work and personal obligations. It does take a time commitment. Finding a student requirement list, making sure that they knew what they needed to do and where the hard stops are. You know, there's a hard stop in module 2, I believe, right away. So students get kind of gung-ho and then they need to wait until an instructor can check in. So finding out what those hard stops are so you're available or they know when they're going to happen. Slack communication. This was really interesting because it was new. A couple of the instructors didn't quite know how to use Slack. And so they talked to their students like, oh, hey, you know, email it to me or text it to me or do it in some other communication manner. And then later on, a different instructor couldn't help them because they didn't have access to the materials. So being consistent and using the Slack channels, while it's a bit of a learning curve, it allows the entire instructor team to participate and to help out. If you're doing it via email or doing it some other way, then the material isn't captured. The videos aren't available for others. Communicate the need for supplies prior to the class. You know, we've all been through module 2 where you need a car seat right away, and we need to make sure that the students have the materials before they get started. Plan your instructor team availability schedule. Who's going to cover what hours? How can we make sure that those students working on the weekend have it? And again, we'd really encourage students, if this is part of their job, they do it during their workday, but we know that we're all doing the best we can with our little ones in tow while we're trying to get some work done. I thought this was a really great tip, is a tip sheet on how to video in vehicles. You know, this is something new. We want the students to submit a video. I think we need to give them some tips on how to create a great video. What angle, or where do you put it, or how do you attach it? And that's going to be one of the things that I include in my toolbox is a little flexible, bendy tripod, you know, that you can attach to someplace in the vehicle to get some of these videos that we need to do. Because I gotta be honest, I would rather do my own video than have somebody watch me while I talk. So having a way to do that successfully is going to be neat. Creating a video checklist for instructors. Many instructors said that they needed some help remembering and knowing what they needed to collect from their students. And another instructor really encouraged us to collect the student vehicle forms before the in-person sessions so that you know what the students are driving to the in-person and we know what kind of vehicle seatbelt systems we're going to be looking at. Thank you. Next one. Obviously, this was one of the funnest slides to create about what people really liked the best. Tracking student progress. I have a hybrid that just got started and I'm super fascinated to see how the progress is going. And you can track that. You can see exactly when the last time they logged on, how are they doing? So you can monitor your students. One of the instructors noted that everybody could be in a different location, you know, until the in-person session. And that was really helpful. It helped with scheduling and getting everyone together. One of the instructors mentioned it was actually less work to administer it, and they loved the flexibility of the schedule. Students were required to contribute, creating their videos, really got everyone engaged, and I think created a better learning environment. But you can see there was a lot of really great feedback about what people really liked about the course. Next slide. This was my favorite feedback of the whole course. And I have a few sentiments to share with you from some of our instructors. I asked them if they would offer it again, what would they do? And they were honest about their reflections. It was great. This is new. We're all learning. The instructor team was receptive but skeptical. But they gave it a try, and then that's where this statement came in. The biggest skeptic was completely convinced by the end of the class, which is exciting. Another instructor shared that they're going to do it in conjunction with in-person. They're going to do a little bit of both. I'm a huge fan of this format, and our state coordinator is on board. So yay, whoever that state coordinator is, we're glad to have you do it. They're going to be adding additional offerings. Yes, and after teaching it once, I have a few ideas of how to do it a little bit better the second time. I'm not 100% behind this yet, but I'm 100% behind that this is an exceptional program for future CPS and keeping it relevant. Very much so. In fact, we plan to do another class this spring. I was skeptical, but it was amazing. I think so. I think I'd like to try it one more time before I make a final decision. It was less tiring. I didn't have to travel back and forth to the course location, set up the activities, climb in and out of cars. But it did feel like I was on call and needed to be available virtually. And I think we talked about how we can overcome some of that and make it a little bit better. This course allowed people to be more human and work this into their life rather than a cram session for 3 or 4 days in a row. We do plan to offer the hybrid course in the future, not as much of the in-person, but yeah, once in a while. I'm a huge fan of this format, and our state coordinator's on board. I already said that one, sorry. Our instructor team is split, but this is going to happen, and it needs to be part of our training methods. So we're going to have a core team of hybrid instructors, and we're going to go for it. And another added that I believe the content and the video is excellent. And Jessica shared, we had hospital systems and fire departments that said they could never take the course before due to the 4-day out of the office commitment. We now have new partners and more help for the caregivers and children because of the hybrid. So I would really love to encourage each of you to give it a try in your state. You can reach out to us for questions or for help. Many of these instructors shared that they would be happy to chat with anyone that was looking to have a hybrid course, and they would be willing to help. So please let us know how we can support you or what questions you might have getting ready to have your first hybrid. Thank you, Jessica. So I do want to thank all of you for being here today. We really appreciate your time. We're going to take some questions here in just a second after the closing announcements. Next slide. We have some upcoming webinar series. Do you hear what I hear? A guide to working with ELS families and NDCF times CPS. I don't know if you're using the NDCF yet, but oh my goodness, it is fabulous. The data that we're collecting is really substantial. Next slide. Make sure you don't miss the next Hold My Clipboard, almost live. Jessica, there isn't a, just go to cpsboard.webinars and you can sign up for this one and get the dates. Next slide.
Just a side note on the upcoming Hold My Clipboard, there was a planned session at Kids in Motion in Florida, and we have 3 technicians and instructors from across the states who are there to talk about their experience and how the NDCF works in their state. And unfortunately, this presentation is why we're calling it almost live, was canceled abruptly due to an evacuation of the hotel during this conference. So we are regrouping, and so these are our special guests, and they're going to talk about how the NDCF is changing their programs in their states. And we have Brian Rauscher from Idaho, we have Claire Meyer from Maryland, and then we have Danielle Campbell from Florida. So please join and promote if you can. It's December 15th, so we know it's coming up really soon. And you can register at cpsboard.org/webinars. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Oh, what a bummer to miss out after all that preparation. So I'm glad you have a chance to have that.
My tagline was that our pilot was canceled before it was even run because we weren't able to do it.
Yep. Jim wants to make sure that you know that a gas leak is out of their control at
Oh,
the
I know.
conference, and we don't want to discourage you from attending. So please make
Not
sure
at all.
you
And the
attend.
funny thing about having a conference full of safety-minded people, once they said evacuate, no one looked twice. Everyone did what they were told. No surprise. That everyone did what they were supposed to, and it wasn't the fault of the conference. It was out of their hands.
So we do have a couple more exciting CPS coordinators forums coming up for you. And again, if you have suggestions for topics or things you'd like to learn about, please reach out to us. These are the two upcoming. Tracy, we're going to come back and we're going to do questions here in just a minute because the hybrid is so much fun to talk about. So we'll get to your question here in just a quick second. Jessica's at the end of our slides.
It is.
Okay, so you can stop sharing and you can try your videos and we can have a quick chat. We'll stay on for the next 9 or 10 minutes and talk about hybrid and answer some of these questions. So Tracy asked, did you find that instructors were getting more hours for recertification for teaching the hybrid course than teaching in the in-person course? Tracy, I don't have access to the hours quite yet, but I'm going to copy your question and I'm going to check in with Safe Kids and find out about that for you. Because I would be interested to know. Again, I just started my first hybrid, and I'm trying to figure out what my timeline looks like and how that's going.
I think they're finding that it's pretty comparable, but this is a great question that we can, as Mandi said, get in the hands of Cass Herring and Safe Kids worldwide. But from my experience so far and from feedback that we're hearing, the hours earned are pretty comparable.
Yeah. And they are working on some FAQs about teaching hours, what will count as teaching hours. There's going to be a list of that, things like leading a virtual checkpoint, co-teaching during a checkpoint, leading or participating in hands-on, leading the quiz reviews, actual time at the checkup. Things that haven't counted in the past for hours still won't count, goodness. Backing up for a colleague, just following along in the book, adding comment to instructor presentations, setting up an activity, or breaking down the event. Those still won't count. But yeah, Tracy, I think we're all really anxious to see how this plays out and how our time goes. Jessica, do you want to stop share so that if students want to, or people want to share their screen, we can see their faces and answer their questions? Has anybody else got a class schedule that they're curious about, or have you gotten through the first steps? Have you done the hybrid endorsement yet? Have you taken the hybrid?